So a few weeks ago, my wife and I took a trip up to Fort Delaware. It's located in the Delaware River and was originally built in the mid-1800s as a defensive fort protecting the ports of Wilmington and Philadelphia. This particular weekend, the Liberty Rifles shared that they were going to be there doing a living history interpretive program as Confederate prisoners of war being held there. So they were there on Saturday and Sunday. We couldn't make it up there till Sunday. As we were getting on the ferry that takes you out to Peapatch Island, which is where the fort is located, we saw the last members of the Liberty Rifles leaving, and we didn't know it at the time. So when we got to the island, it was the normal park staff that is there. It's incredible that it's still maintained in this way. So if you ever get a chance to get up there and check it out, you can see the firing of the 8-inch Columbiad gun, it's impressive to be right there. If you're close by, you can make it out there. It's definitely worth the trip. And during October, they have paranormal programs there. I'm not sure exactly what that's about. It's probably a big ticket for them. So if you get the chance, check it out. If you like the video, please give me a thumbs up. I'm thinking about doing more of these style videos, and I appreciate any feedback you can give me. Thank you.
How are you guys? Good. How you doing?
All right. Good morning, folks. Hello there.
Two of us.
Super duper.
All right. Thank you.
Hi there.
POW weekend. So you can see the fort is right there. So that's where we're heading.
What's that?
So I think we're headed to a tram next. And this is our tram. Paranormal Adventures, huh?
Now, let's say they did get past that, or the drawbridge wasn't put up, they get to our doors. These are original doors, by the way. They are 3 layers of thick of iron and wood with iron studs throughout. They are supposedly built to take direct cannon fire. Now, field artillery fire, naval artillery at the time could probably go right through these, but if you're a ship floating out there getting attacked by artillery pieces, I don't think you're going to have great accuracy on hitting such a small space. Also, all the while, you might notice the rifle slits, you still be getting shot at. Let's say they still broke through here and entered the side port. You notice there are 3 archways. In those archways would have been doors just like these. But instead of the slits, you'd just be getting shot at through the hatchways above. Now, also, you don't want to be getting shot at in such a narrow area, so you go right up that stairwell to get away, and you come right back down that stairwell. Good fort design. You don't want them to have free reign once they get through the front gate. So, but as I said, the fort never really got to see any action. That said, it was still manned as a defensive work, but the Army kind of realized the Navy or the Confederates were never going to really attack the island, so they quickly decided to make it a POW camp. So very, very early on, they would keep Confederate prisoners inside the fort in unused gun battery positions. They put up temporary iron bars. They quickly realized this was a bad idea, having guns, gunpowder, and prisoners all in the same location. So then they moved them back outside and constructed about 50 wooden barracks. Those barracks could hold up to 10,000 prisoners at a time. Our highest prisoner population was actually about 12,000. It was right after Gettysburg. And on top of those 12,000, you have about 2,000 Union soldiers stationed out here. So on about 75 acres of land, you have about 14,000 people. This actually made Fort Delaware, Peapatch Island, the second largest city in Delaware, right after Wilmington. Now, in order to accommodate that many people, on top of the barracks, there's warehouses, ice houses, inns, taverns, workshops, and even an all-faith chapel. Please pass that around. Now, there was also a hospital with an infectious disease ward built out on the north end. 5 years this was active as a POW camp, and in 5 years, 30,000 prisoners would come through here, and only about 2,000 to 3,000 would end up dying of disease here. Because at any point, if they sought medical assistance, they would get it out at the hospital. They'd also get 2 meals a day, and fresh water would be shipped in if their water proved to be tainted or there wasn't enough of it. Also, they could get jobs and get sutler script for pay, and as I said before, if they ever wanted to switch sides, they could. Now let me compare this to the actual Andersonville. It was active for 6 months down in Georgia. In 6 months, they killed 30,000 prisoners. While it was never really nice here, it was still tolerant. Now, ultimately, the war would come to an end, and the prisoners would be allowed to be sent home as long as they just signed a piece of paper saying, I will not commit treason again. And then they can just present a piece of paper to any ferry captain or train conductor, and they get a free trip back home. We had one holdout, however. He refused to sign it, acknowledge it, none of that. Eventually, it got to the winter of 1866. The Army said, we've had enough of you, and they just dumped him off in Delaware City and tell him to figure his way out back home. He is originally from South Carolina, so he had a bit of a trip ahead of him. And as for other prisoners who were kept here a bit longer, we had the Secretary of Jefferson Davis kept, we believe, originally right above here. Now, I assume he was moved elsewhere because him and the Commandant of the fort, General Alvin Sheff, became pretty good friends to the point Sheff would name his next kid after him. So, eventually he too would be allowed to go back home.
He never came up.
This is where we are doing repairs as well as storage for anything related to weapons. If there are replacement parts that you need, if there are repairs that you need, then this is the place that you would go. Feel free to take a look around, and then of course if you have any questions, feel free to ask.
It smells awesome in here.
Yeah, I've got peaches going on the stove. I hope it smells good. But watch out, it gets good. The water pump.
Yeah, so it goes down to where the rainwater is.
So your feet. Yes. Look at how their packages are.
Look, that one says Amazon.
Amazon.
Yeah. We got a couple minutes. This place is just really incredible. And look at this. We gotta go to the end of that hallway, but I wanted to go look at this and then we'll come back. I wouldn't think they'd have this in here. All right, so look, there's another big one. So we are now on the second level. Right here.
Now the demonstration we're going to do for you, I'm going to start you out at the bat. It's a two-part demonstration. Just the loading and firing of this 8-inch Columbia gun. I do want to sit there and say it's a gun, not a cannon. Cannons are movable, like you see the pieces that we have down and around the field, the parade ground down there with the wheels. They're cannons. We can roll them everywhere we want. Guns are immovable. See this piece? We're not moving that thing. The tube alone is 9,040 pounds. Now it's cast in a foundry in Boston in 1855. Now with the maximum charge, maximum elevation, and a maximum range, we can throw one of these 65-pound balls 2 1/4 miles. Delaware City is 1 mile. So imagine how far we could really toss one of these things. Now before we begin, I want to tell you this is a two-part demonstration. The first part will be load by detail. We'll show you step by step what it takes for us to fire this. The second part will be load by action. That's what we'll go ahead and fire it, okay? Okay. Guys all understand, right? Now you see the gunner, he's got a series of bags. He's going to hand these out to a couple of people that are going to need these bags to do their job. Now you see he's pulling out what they call a gunner's level. He's going to put it on the breech, find out exactly where that level is. He's going to pull a piece of chalk out, make a mark. He's going to hand it up to number 2. He's going to do the same thing with the muzzle. Find that perfect spot, make a mark with the chalk. That's going to be our sights now. Now they're taking off the vent cover. The vent is nothing more than a hole that goes from the top of the piece down into the tube in the breech. Now he's going to pull out what they call a vent pick. He's going to put that down the vent to make sure there's no obstructions there. And if you look at his right hand, he got what they call a finger stall. That's nothing but a piece of leather that wraps your finger. He will put that over the vent to prevent any oxygen from going into the tube at all down that vent.
Vent secure, load by detail, load, search piece.
Now number 2, he's pulling out what we call a tompion. A tompion is nothing more than a big cork that goes into the muzzle. Its purpose, it keeps out any rain, debris, or even as we have found in the past, a passing bird who says, this is a pretty good place to build a nest. So now they're going to take the worm. There's nothing more like a giant corkscrew. They will put that down the tube and spin it. If there's any obstructions there left over from a previous fire, that will be able to extract it. Now they're going to put down the sponge. If there's any embers left over there from a previous fire, what do you think would happen if you put a linen sack of powder down there? Boom! Bad day for number 1 and number 2. If anything goes wrong, they will be the first to know. And that's why we also kind of refer to them as the expendables. Now number 4 is going to come up with the charge. Going to hand it off to number 2 out of the pass bag. We're going to put that in the muzzle. Now they're going to take what they call the ram. They're going to take that ram and shove that charge, seat it down into the breech. Now number 4 is going to come up with one of those solid shot. Hand that off to number 2, who's going to put it into the muzzle. Now once again, they're going to take that ram and put that shot down and seat it onto the charge into the breech. Now we have a loaded gun. Now watch number 2. He's got a broom. What's he got a broom for? He's going to do a little bit of housekeeping. If any powder might have leaked out of that linen sack, the flame that comes out from that tube when they fire it could ignite any of that loose gunpowder at their feet, again making it a very difficult day for number 1 and number 2. Now number 3 back here, he's got what they call a friction primer. It is nothing more than a small tube with a wire coming off. They will hook that to the lanyard. When that lanyard is pulled, it will cause that friction, igniting that fulminated mercury, sending a spark down the vent into our powder, thus igniting it.
Gun 123 is ready to fire.
Okay, everybody put your fingers to the flaps of your ears, okay? Battery make ready!
Gun 123, fire!
What you think? You like that? Okay, you shouldn't like that. That's our first part. Now we're going to do the second part. That was load by detail. Now we're going to do load for action. Trust me, it's going to be a lot better.
That's secure, load for action, load.
Now you notice number 1 and 2, they each keep one arm behind their back. Anybody have any idea why? No? It's for safety. You want to protect that one hand or that one arm. You don't want to have both hands on that implement. What if the gun prematurely disfires and you're grabbing a hold of that implement? Your limbs will be torn from you, go flying. This way, your one arm is always protected, and the other arm, you're not supposed to grab that implement with a fist. You use what we call the pauper's palm. We will sit there and put that implement in and out just by simply putting weight up on it as it goes in and out. And again, if it fires prematurely, the implement goes flying, and you have both your hands and your arms safely at home at night. And I have to tell you, one good crew in this during the war can do one of these rounds every 45 seconds.
Gun 123 is ready to fire.
Okay, everybody, one more time. Put your fingers to the flaps of your ears. Here we go. Battery make ready!
Gun 123, fire!
You guys have a little shake to you there. A little bit better now, huh? You guys like that a little better?
Oh, that was awesome.
Okay, let me tell you. That was 1/10 of a round we would have used during the war. 1/10.
Oh my God.
Yes, very much. Oh my God. That was 1 pound. Normally we would have used 10. That's what makes that ball go 2 1/4 miles. So, say we're always in a combat situation. That concussion alone, but first of all, we'd be going deaf. The concussion would make our retinas detach from our eyes. We'd be losing our eyesight. Our teeth would be coming loose, also from the concussion. Like I said, it's what we call artilleryman's disease. Not very fun to have. But anyway, that's pretty much our demonstration. I hope you enjoyed it.
Oh, yeah.
And just give us a couple seconds. Just give us a couple minutes. We're going to wrap this piece up, and then we'll drop this rope. If you want to come in and look at everything up close, talk to the people.
I couldn't hear where it was coming from. I don't know if we have time to go to the building over there or not. That is some rain. Underneath this thing. Our boat's coming. Over there. Going back. The cheese.
Yeah.